Welcome back to the Show Me Kayak Fishing Podcast. This week we are going to be covering the Taney20, the MoYak Spring Championship, the Taney20. To get into that, the top 20 anglers and last year's Angler of the Year race qualified and got to go compete. So we've got the Big Bass winner and then the first place winner today. Second and third place, both were unable to join us, sadly, but we've got a couple of us, and so we're going to start here with Mr. Richy. Is it Laughery or Laughery?
You were closer the second time. Laughery.
Laughery, okay. Richy Laughery with a very impressive big bass of 23 3/4 inches and a top 10 finish as well, seventh place with 71 1/4 inches.
With 4 fish.
A very impressive 4 fish at 71 inches. And I know you had another pretty good one in there. So why don't you tell us about your day and tell us about that big one?
So the area has been essentially in a drought. Table Rock just hit full pool not 2-3 weeks ago, and usually we're flooding and they're pulling water left and right. And I mean, not a little bit of water. Like we're talking on average between 10 and 15,000 cubic feet per second to Table Rock. So there's typically a lot of flow through Taney, and it's 12 to 18 inches higher than when we both tournaments we fished it so far this year. For the grassroots event before the month before the Taney20, I was a little skeptical, even having a good day. Luckily, I'd gone pre-fishing and found fish deeper, further off my normal spots. Because I mean, on average on that lake, I'm catching them less than 4 feet deep, 4 feet or less. And I mean, and deep is relative, especially to that lake, because like some of the deepest spot, especially out there in the Rockaway area, is only 30 feet. Whereas we got hundreds of feet on Table Rock or Bull or other lakes, some whatnot. But I was having to find these fish in 8-10 feet of water, and so I had a surprise that grassroots series that was kind of a slugfest with the top 3 in the 90s, and I finished that one off at 96 3/4. So a month forward, still no rain, no big rain, and lake still low. Some hours, like 1 hour here and there throughout the week of generation, so there's no flow through the lake. It's kind of tidal. It's better when the water's flowing. Went out, noticed no flow, kind of went out to my deeper spots. Big bass was the first bass on my first deep spot, and again, kind of like the grassroots series, that mag draft 6-inch on a underspin weedless right through between the nostrils on that fish. Healthy fish post spawn. It was pretty red on its rear, so its gut was thinned out. I've caught 23-inch fish there that weighed 9.5 pounds. So 23 3/4, it weighed at 7.5, right, 7.8, and that was 10-15 minutes into the day, and I was like, I got super excited. I was like, maybe this will work. If I could do one of these every hour and a half, I was like, here comes 105 inches. Like, I'm gonna body slam these guys. And I fished out that spot, went to my next spot, and another angler who hadn't been to the lake before ran over the spot. And I wasn't mad about it. I've got 15 other spots. And yeah, I was talking to him, and I go, "Did you see them trees under you?" He goes, "Yeah, I was right on top of them by the time I knew they were there." And he asked me about the cove right there where we were, and I was like, "You can try to fish it, but that water's low and it's pretty choked out right now." And he's like, I'm gonna give it a try." So I left that area for about 30 minutes, fished some other spots, didn't catch anything. Come right back to it's a row of tree stumps, and I threw a I didn't get it out, but it's a 5/8 ounce megabass Uze, their swim jig with the underspin on it, and I had a freestyle on it for a trailer, and there was my 19 3/4. I caught that right in front of him as he was coming back out of that cove, and I was like, "Awesome! Here's another good one. Let's do this again." And I just cycled through my spots 2 times without any more bites, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna drag, ain't it?" And finally, the sun popped out, and I had been kind of waiting on the sun to pop out to go hit the docks because I mean, fish have no eyelids, and so they like shade. And uh, I went flipping the docks. I caught 2 14 inchers. I think I had the mouth open or something on one of them, and I had a 1/4 inch knocked off of it. Um, but I wasn't too concerned about it because I was hoping to upgrade. And I saw a couple of bedfish, which my last fish during the grassroots series was a bedfish. And a month prior, they were aggressive, but the 3 bedfish I came across during the Taney20, they just were very standoffish, wouldn't hardly nose down on a bait, threw several different baits, went back up. Uh, I made the 15-20 minute run to go hit the furthest one away after giving it like an hour and a half or two rest, and still couldn't get to pick anything up. And I just got that. That was kind of the end of my day. Just ran out of time.
Yeah. It ended up with 2 at 14 and a 14 3/4, something like that, wasn't it, for your 2 smallest there?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then yeah, that 23 3/4. I know that I looked at the leaderboard at some point and saw that you had 2 fish for 43 inches, 42 inches
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
good gosh, Richie's gonna do it. And you
Yeah.
mentioned through that several times about the grassroots event, but I don't think you said there that you won that one with you said 96 3/4 inches,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I
you
mentioned it.
won that, and by, I don't remember how much you won it by, but
3 1/4 inches.
was it? Yep, because I've got Jason's here too. Um, pretty impressive there. Go out, do that, and then come back out and catch a real giant. I mean, at the last time we were there, we had 2 at 23 1/4, but
Yeah.
nothing at 23 3/4.
And you caught them when they were still carrying egg too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know that me and you have talked a little bit about the mag draft that you throw there. It seems like quite a bit. Is that kind of a go-to thing for you year round there?
Yeah. Or just softies. When the water's clean, I do throw big lides. I had missed a fish or two during the grassroots series on a 9 inch KGB Legend. Um, and I had a follow or two on the KGB Trout. um, and then when I saw it was low again during the Taney20, I mean, I threw the Legend around, and I had a follow or two, couldn't convert them. Uh, I I spent a lot of time throwing it around some deeper structure. I mean, I probably had 5 or 6 follows on it during the Taney20 that I couldn't get them no matter how many little flicks and tricks I tried on them, uh, couldn't get them to convert and just eat it. But I strictly, I mean, outside of the big baits, I mean, the jig, just a 3/8 ounce, half is too heavy. It goes, the 3/8 kind of hovers over the weeds where that half ounce will dig in. I've been throwing 3/8 ounce on that lake for years now, and I mean, the day I caught 2 9s in 2020, the second one come on a 3/8 ounce. It was the Strike King structure wobblehead with a Berkeley fatty craw. That's a pretty good bait that comes clean through the grass because of its pointed head. But yeah, essentially jig. And then later on in the summer, you got to throw frog. Last summer in July, I caught a 510. It measured 18.5 inches. It was a cinder block. And what sucks is I couldn't even use it for my July limit. it was I think it was almost an inch and a quarter short of my shortest fish in my limit that month. Or no, it was an inch and a half. I think I had a 20 or 20 and a quarter. That was my small fish that month. I had 107 3/4 inches for my online in July. I had a 23 then. That was second place for the bounty last year. And I actually caught that on the Z-Man, the 4-inch Shadowlicious. That bait really shined for me later in the summer. I was throwing a 6-inch, and I don't think I caught a single fish on it. But I could throw like the Savage Gear, Pulse Tail Shad earlier in the spring, like April, May, and that thing would get clobbered. I don't know. But the 4-inch that in July, that got on one trip, that got hammered. I caught 104 inches in 20 minutes on that 4-inch shad, which included that 23.
Yeah.
But that's how electric that lake can be. You can hit one spot and they're piled up. And if you catch one big one, you better make a lot of more casts in that spot because it's not alone.
Yeah.
I had April 2020, after I won that March with 109 3/4, I went out and I saw Dave, I forgot his last name now, and Ty Ward. And Ty come back around me. I got set up on my spot. He goes, "Hey, you mind if I sit back here and watch the magic?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's no problem. Just take some pictures." And I had the 8-inch mag draft that I modified with an 11-inch VMC. And I made 12 casts, caught 8 fish. I had like 100.5 inches.
That's awesome. So leading up to this event, I think it was a week of no practice, leading up to it or something like that. And you're a local there. You live somewhat near the lake. I'm pretty sure. So with no practice, did you still feel pretty confident in what you were gonna find going into the tournament, like that having that local history?
Well, I was kind of going off the grassroots tournament and some of my other. I had pre-fished a week before the grassroots tournament, and then before the Taney tournament, and then I mean, just watching the weather and watching the discharge on Table Rock Lake, I came into the Taney20 expecting similar conditions to the grassroots series, just low water level, no flow. Now we did get a little extra rain. It was that Thursday night before the tournament, and so the the flow out of the like Bull Creek area was slightly elevated, but like not enough to that I feel to influence the positioning of the fish, how I traditionally fish that area. They were still with the little to no flow. They're just scattered. When there's some flow, they seem to. You can almost pick your spots. It's like fishing a river. You throw it in the eddies. You throw it around points. Whether it's slack water, it's river fishing on a large scale.
Absolutely. So I guess I got another question written down here that you kind of already answered, but you think the fishing the conditions played probably more than history did in this one? I mean, it sounds like you had some spots picked out where you found that big one on a what I'm assuming was history, but the conditions played a big role.
Yeah. It's history, but I mean that lake in its entirety the spots seem to reload. There in 2020, between me and 4 other guys that were just absolutely hammering the lake, say in online competition, I would easily say over 150, over 20 were submitted.
Wow.
Between 5 months, and there was 2 duplicates, and one was a smaller, just 20 and a half inch fish. The other duplicate was the longer 9-pounder that I caught in March. It was I had to call it 23 3/4, but it was like that short of the 24-inch mark. And Peyton Stump, who Triple P Customs, he was fishing then. He caught it again in July on a bull shad 4x4 the wake, and post spawn summer trim laid flatter on the board. That tail touched the line, so he broke my big fish record, single fish record with the same fish. And then Brendan Banks, he broke my limit record, but I only took 2 days to set my record. He took 20. But I mean, it's pretty awesome when you go to a lake fishing a monthly and you're calling 22 even inch fish. Like that's what you need, a 22 1/4 to call out your small fish.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But it's easy to fish history on that lake because I always feel there ends up being fish there. And then, I mean, honestly, there is a low percentage of days that I go out there, and I'll absolutely skunt. I mean, and I can't explain it. So I've gone out there and the conditions were right, didn't catch crap. And then I've gone out there when it was all the wrong conditions that I thought and caught fire out of them. But typically, the same spots have been able to repeat results. But that's what happens when you spend a lot of time on one single lake. Jake Pruitt, they're in like 22 or 23. Dude was playing hopscotch with lakes constantly. He was at Palmy, he was at Stockton, then he'd be at Springfield, then he'd be at Table Rock, then he'd be at Taney, so on and so forth. And Mike Gilbert, Working Class Zero, has a video, I forgot the title of it, but essentially talks about how you just stick with one lake, say Fish it for a year, fish it for 2 years, learn that lake, and you'll learn where all the big stuff hides. And if you catch little ones and you consistently, a few trips in a row, catch little ones in that spot, skip that spot. If you consistently catch bigger fish in a different area, you fish that area instead. So that's kind of been, I mean, I've been fishing Taney really hard since about 2018. And it was, I had caught 20s out of there every so often, but it was 2020, beginning of 2020 or going into 2020. I had a pretty good idea of a particular set of conditions for a pattern, and my ex-wife and kiddo went to California for 3 weeks. And during that 3 weeks, I picked up a bunch of side jobs. I got busy. I wasn't able to fish, and they came home. And that week after that they came home, I came in Monday morning to work. My boss looked at me. She goes, "You're gonna pick a day to go fishing because you didn't get to go fishing while they were gone this week." I'm like, "Okay." I pulled up my weather app. I was like, "All right, there's supposed to be a storm on Tuesday." I'm like, "I want to go Thursday." Thursday, go drop kiddo off daycare, put in the water, put in on the water. 20 minutes later, or yeah, 30 minutes later, I had a 9.5 sitting in the boat. Like, and then caught the second one 3 hours later, and then went back Saturday and culled my bottom 3 fish because the conditions were still right. And I've just been able to go out and replicate that every time I see those conditions. And that's a big thing with me with noticing patterns. If I'm able to go to, I mean, fall time, Table Rock, wake baits and glides, on points, bluffy stuff. I repeated that every year, 5 years, and but the water temperature's got to be right. It seemed like every time we held a championship on there, we had Indian summers, and the water still be in the freaking 70s in early October or mid October whenever we held it. And it wasn't till the 22 Table Rock Winter Series that I finally, for 7 years, I threatened these guys with a glide bait bite that I would win Table Rock, and it finally came together. We had 60. It was right at 60, 62-degree water temp. Wind was blowing right, and I caught my limit in 100 yards, and then called my bottom fish near the ramp that pushed me over the top because I was actually tied with Scott Kroger for like an hour and a half. But again, with the patterns, just being able to pay attention to those little details, and you build it. That's how you build a pattern. Because I mean, you check that weather, that water clarity, that water temp, wind, depth, speed of your retrieve, the style of retrieves. I focus a lot less on colors, really. Taney, we had Taney is the clearest I have seen it this time of year in years. I mean, especially up in the creek area I was fishing, I was seeing like 8 and 10 foot visibility during the grassroots series. It got a hair dirtier during the Taney20. And then out there, I don't know if you fished the main lake area, but I'm sure it was 10 plus out there. But I thought, like, I mean, this is albino. I mean, you can see in the sunlight here, it's just the brightest thing ever. And that's kind of my muddy watercolor. I was throwing like the brownie, which is kind of a green pumpkin back. It's almost a translucent body with a silver belly. I I thought that was going to be my ticket, and it wasn't. And I changed it up. It was actually during the grassroots series, and that's where I caught my two first fish. Was I switched to that bright white. Um, Maybe it was a draw power thing. They could see it from a distance, glowing, bumping through that grass instead of the more kind of incognito color. But I mean, I've been on that lake when it's chocolate milk, and I cycled through 5 different colors, and they fit it all the same. I'd literally catch a fish, cut it off, tie on a different color, make a cast, catch a fish, cut it off, tie on a different color. So I genuinely probably could have caught them on like a hot pink or chartreuse one with it being 10-foot visibility over a natural rainbow or shad color.
Yeah.
But I try to focus way less on colors anymore. I mean, this I green pumpkin with some type of highlight color, and then black and blue flake. That's my 2 jig colors. That's it.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a Gerald Swindle YouTube video where he talks about throwing a brown jig, and if they don't bite the brown jig, he'll throw the black jig, and if they don't bite the black jig, he'll throw the brown one. Sometimes he puts the green pumpkin on the brown one, then sometimes he puts the green pumpkin trailer on the black one. Like, keeps that simple,
Yeah.
and you carry a lot less tackle that way. There's
Definitely.
all these pretty jig colors. I mean, I've tried peanut butter, PB&J on Table Rock, and this green pumpkin brown orange gets bit way more, and it could be a confidence thing. I've thrown PB&J at Table Rock so many times to just switch back to that and catch them just as good or better.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of been Fosno's secret to his success. It seems like is just having a lot of confidence in the baits that he throws and sticking to them. So
Yep.
and he's about as good as it gets. So
And
but we'll we'll go ahead and talk about Jason Shiflett with third place and 88 inches. We were hoping to have him on today, but he
yeah,
was not available to make it. I guess. He had his big fish was 19 and a half inches, small fish was 16 inches. If I remember right, he hit that 88-inch mark pretty early on, and then the last
yeah.
few hours of the day may not have went his way. And then
I
what's that?
I was gonna say, unless I'm just absolutely annihilating it like I was with the grassroots series, I typically don't check the leaderboard throughout the day. I would, I'd love to comment on some of that, but I just don't. When I'm struggling, I'm not checking my phone. That's what I was telling like my girlfriend. I was like, I snack. I do protein shakes because it's quick swig and it's back down. I'm not sitting there eating a meal because that's
Yeah,
time consuming and it's less casts that I make.
yeah. And
But
then
yeah, that's pretty good. That's always great to get your limit early,
yeah,
uh, and then it's fun fishing after that. You're just looking for bigger.
yeah. And then we had Chris Gilbert, who I don't really know personally, but I've met him at a couple of tournaments. But he was he was in second place with 89 and 3/4 inches. He similarly had a pretty good morning, and he was up there. I think he was the first one with a good limit on the board, and then kind of went stagnant for most of the day. And then I think he went and finished out culling up in the last. I think from the awards, I think he said about an hour. So
Yeah,
he ended up with 89 and 3/4 inches, and then I ended up in first place with 90 inches.
yeah,
I had a decent limit early and then culled up from there, uh, and beat Chris Gilbert by only an inch or not an inch, only beat him by a quarter of an inch, which I've
Yeah,
done
that was
that
close.
one other time now. But I think Adrian might have some questions for me about my day, so we'll turn it over to him
Yeah.
and let him go.
Yeah, it's always nice when the interviewer turns into the interviewee. So I'll go ahead and give you the same question you do to Richard to start it off. What was your day like? You want to run us through it?
Yeah,
Kind of tell us what you were seeing.
yeah. I started off kind of. Me and Chad Davison had camped together, and he told me that they were going to be post-spawn. So I kind of took his word for it. I didn't know what to expect. The only time that I'd really ever fished that lake was the grassroots event, and didn't do good there. So uh, came into it with like just hoping for a better day, more or less. But anyways, I went looking for post spawners, throwing around a spook and a buzzbait to start. Tried the spook as much as I could, but I ended up in a lot of grass, so switched over to the buzzbait, throwing that a lot. Got on some big grass flats, throwing a frog, and I did that for probably like 40 minutes. And then the sun started to peak up, and so I kind of gave that up. Peak up a little bit, if I remember right. There was a tad bit of cloud cover, but
Yeah.
but that top water deal just wasn't happening for me. So then I switched to a bladed jig, move, hoping to get to cover a lot of water and catch the post spawners that I was looking for, and that didn't work out. So I got to my first dock, and I grabbed the same orange Senko that I've been throwing all spring, and skipped it way up underneath the dock cable, and I thought I got bit, but it was after letting it just sit on the bottom for a while. So I reeled it in and casted it back out there, and that time I got bit on the fall, and that was my first fish at, I don't know, 14 inches or something like that, 13 maybe. But just the way they were acting made me think that one was on a bed. So I hopped around the dock, went fishing on down the bank, and at first I was focusing on the outside weed line, looking for the post spawners, and then once that happened, I transitioned to moving to the inside weed line, and just within, I don't know, 30-yard stretch probably, I caught a 18, a 20 and a three quarter, 20 and three quarter, and a 19 and a quarter all in a row on that inside weed line on the orange Senko, and I'm pretty confident that all three of those were on beds. Two of them I saw the beds.
And that's where I was talking about. When you do catch a big one in an area, you better fish the crap out of that area.
Yeah, yeah.
And that resulted in 3 good fish for you.
Yeah. And there was several more around. I could see them, but by the time I saw them, they'd already seen me. And I think that people have been pestering them for a while because they never would eat, and I'd come back to the spot and sit off as far as I could cast, and Chuck went in there to them, and they just refused to ever play. And I never caught a fish off bed that I could see. It was all just blind casting. Finished my limit in probably 30 something minutes after I caught my first one, and then kind of ran around all day looking to repeat that, and went covered that same little stretch, just kept making loops, and they weren't playing there. And then I went and tried to run behind some other guys and found the bedded fish that they had already floated over top of and couldn't get to eat. I also couldn't get them to eat. And then I was headed back to that area to finish it out there. And at that point, I had 88 and a quarter inches. So I was ahead of Shiflet, what he had on the board. I didn't have all my stuff submitted because I accidentally left my pack of Senkos in the picture, and I didn't want people seeing them early in the day. And but I went and I got on. There's kind of a main lake point there that's real shallow. Got some docks and a whole bunch of grass. I mean, it's hard to get your boat moving through there. But I switched over to a little fluke style bait from Tackle Max, repeat offender, and got up in those weeds, chucking it. Or well, I was scooting down, just kind of looking, fishing it on the outside weed line, and I saw it had to have been like 21, 22 incher right off the right side of my boat, swimming towards the back of me. And so I kind of knew I was in the right area, but by the time I saw it, it seen me and wasn't interested in playing. But I kind of ran around in that area, chucking around that fluke style bait, just twitching it around the grass, whatever. and I got a couple bites underneath some docks. I did catch one, but it was tiny. I got a couple other bites, caught a couple, they were tiny, and then finally went and started on a new stretch, just casting way out in front of me on a section that I hadn't already blown out with my motor because I was kind of being dumb how I approached that, I think. But got out blind casting in front of me and didn't know it, but there was a tree there that was kind of making a hole in the weeds and twitching it through there. Got my last bite of the day and brought that one in. And it was, I want to tell you that was a 15.5 incher. So it was my smallest fish of the day, but it was maybe the most meaningful because it'd been a long time without a halfway decent fish. And that was I think that was like a 2-inch coal too. So it was just enough to put me above Chris and get the win there. So
Heck yeah. So a lot of people might not know
good.
this about you, but you well, you're not from Maryville, but you lived a great deal of your life there, and Lake Mazingo is kind of your, well, I would consider your home lake, and that's a pretty grassy lake. From what Richie's making it sound like, it's probably not as clear as a Taney, but do you think having all that experience on that grassy fishery kind of helped you transition pretty quick and get this lake that you don't really have a lot of experience on figured out, so to speak?
Absolutely, yeah. It was that was the deal going into the grassroots one. Was I just planned on fishing it just like I would Mazingo, because I knew that we hadn't had any rain, like Richie was talking about. There was next to no current, if any at all, and so that was the approach there. And I mean, I caught a great big fish, but it, not much other than that in that event. And so coming into this one, it was kind of the same thing, except for I'm not real good at Mazingo pre-spawn and like during the spawn. I'm a lot better at Mazingo post-spawn, and I guess I was catching a lot of spawners, but it seemed like they were primarily post-spawn. Water temp I think was like 64 degrees during this event, or at least where I was, and so it was a lot of yeah, I mean it fished pretty much the exact same way that Mazingo does, just because of no current. It was tougher, but your fish were bigger on average. So yeah. It definitely played.
So that stretch that you're talking about, was there anything different on that stretch that kind of made you feel like it was the reason that stretch played for you and you were able to catch that good stringer of fish, the 3 real quality ones that you got? Or what did you notice that was the difference there?
Wait. Can I guess? Was it a steeper bank?
Compared, well, so the stretch within the stretch, yes, it was where there was 2 flat spots, or not flat, but shallower banks, and then it steepened up for just a second. But the real steep stuff, I never caught fish on.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
Yep, that's a transition area.
Yeah,
they like them.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I noticed was I think just a confidence thing. I needed to have a real definitive weed line, inside or outside. I never really caught fish that weren't on a definitive weed line wherever I was. And I got in somewhere it would be a big expanse, or I got in somewhere it would be like some underneath the water that I couldn't see, and the line would be in and out. There wasn't a real hard line to really fish. And I just needed somewhere that was either an inside or an outside weed line, whatever, that I could really focus on and cast ahead of me to be able to know where in relation to the grass I was casting my bait. But it was that, and then Richie saying that I think he's absolutely right on why that section of really good fish were right there. Yeah.
Makes sense. So it's kind of hard to ask the guy who wins the tournament this question, but looking back on that day, is there anything that you felt like you could have done a little bit differently to maybe give yourself a little bit more breathing room, or maybe be a little bit more efficient in what you were doing? Is there anything because I know you watch your film like crazy and you're your own biggest critic. Do you feel like there's anything that you might have done differently to help yourself out even a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm getting used to the motor deal, and I'm trying not to ever wash out fish. And so part of it was like I'd catch a fish and I'd just turn the motor head out away from the weed line, let me move out there. But I'm thinking I might have been drifting past more fish early in the day, my first time through that stretch, that I probably could have caught more, maybe maybe should have blown out right next to me to save what was ahead of me a little bit instead of going and floating past it a little bit. That in addition to in the grassroots series, I went looking for more areas like where I caught those fish at, and I ran 3 different creeks and didn't find anything that looked like what I wanted there. And I knew that going whenever I started scrambling late in the day at this event, and I knew that they weren't what I wanted, but I just wishful thinking or something. I went and ran a bunch of stuff that I knew wasn't right, and tried to explore new water, and it ended up costing me probably 45 minutes to an hour of time where I was just running, trying to find something that I could confidently fish, and then not finding it, and then going right back to what I knew. So it was, I wasted some time there, and I think I might have spooked some fish that I could have caught if I'd played the boat positioning a little bit smarter.
Makes sense.
If I could elaborate, because I didn't quite get that question. I For the Taney20, I would have fished some of my areas with some slower presentations. I feel like I burned up a lot of water. Just like I mean, I was burning spinner baits. I was throwing that mag draft with the weedless on the swim jig. I was just trying to. I was burning up spots just and covering a lot of water. If Because it sounds like the way you caught them, Dane, with fishing that Senko slow, that was the better ticket that day than what I had done like at the grassroots uh, the month before. And I'm guilty of it, and it usually when I like what last year when I was fishing the monthlies, and I'd go a day of skunk or just low number catching. I'd figure that out, but the figuring out that day by the time it was just too late to figure out. Hey, you need to slow down, dummy. Yeah.
So I got one final question for you, Dane, and it's kind of the opposite of what I just asked you. After winning that tournament and you've had time to review the footage and kind of really think about what you did, is there anything specifically that you're going to take away from that tournament that you feel like is going to make you a better angler, or anything like that you might be able to give some advice to somebody else who might be trying to better their game?
Yeah, actually, yeah. It's not a new discovery. It's not new to me. It's not new to anybody. I think we've all heard it, but the fishing your strengths, going and not really trying to think about it like the river that it is, but knowing that there was no flow and it was going to fish just like how you called it earlier, my home lake of Mazingo. Um, Went and fished it just like Mazingo, and I've learned it 100 times, and I still trip myself up on it because I'll go somewhere and fish it the way it's supposed to be fished, and that a lot of times that just doesn't work for me. So going and approaching it like Mazingo, or like last year I did well at Bull Shoals one time, and I fished it like Mazingo. There's no weeds there, but the water was up in the bushes, and I just treated them just like hydrilla. And that's whenever I do best, is whenever I'm fishing grass or bushes that act like grass or whatever. So yeah, not a new discovery, but that would be it. Would just be fish your strengths and try to find something that relates to what you know. Not, I mean, you might be really good at flipping a jig, but if there's nothing to flip, then, but you know what I mean.
I think that's a good insight there, especially because, and from the outside, from an outsider's perspective, we see what Richie posts on Facebook, and he posts these huge fish that, well, we don't see fish like that up where we live. So it'd be very easy to just try to go there and fish the way he does. When obviously from the outside looking in, we see you as like a big bait guy. You're always throwing big swim baits. It seems like glide baits and stuff like that. It'd been really easy to say, well, I'm just going to go do what he does and catch those kind of fish. And
But
that's
it's funny
not doing
because
that is a good thing.
Yep, it's my 2 biggest fish last year. I had a 7-11 and an 8-1. Were both caught on that jig.
That's
But I
funny.
caught dozens more on swim baits. But it was just sometimes the 8-1 was kind of a spawn time, post spawn fish up in the marina, and then the the 7-Eleven, that was a 22.5-inch fish. That was it's a girth on it, but I'd say it was a post spawn fish too. That was at April. Yeah, that was part of my April limit. But yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I make myself out to be a big bait guy, but I'm especially for these tournaments, the 1-day tournaments, I'm still throwing some traditional stuff, but I'm definitely mixing the big stuff in with it, 100%. Well, I mean, Table Rock last year, I tied for. I can't. Yeah, I tied for big bass with Eric Easter. He caught his first. That was on a KGB Prince 10-inch glide. And then at Truman, I tied for second big fish, lost, and that was on a mag draft. But then I tried to throw a mag draft at Palmy for the championship. I was killing them on a Spro crankbait. I mean, I had 30, 35 fish a day on that Spro crankbait, and I was like, man, I just need to get out of this 13, 15-inch slot. And I threw that mag draft. Second, third cast, hooked into a fish. I was like, it was in the standing timber, a little shallower, maybe 3-4 feet deep. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. And it jumped, and it was a freaking muskie, like a little hammer handle, like 28-inch hammer handle, come up flying sideways and spit that bait. And I was like, I reeled it up, hung it back up, threw it in a rod holder. I was like, not messing with them guys today. But yeah, especially in that live tournament stuff, I'm still mixing up a bunch of conventionals.
Dane, buddy, that was all I had for you. So if you want to go ahead and take her back over, it's good for me.
Well, sounds good. Well, Richy, thank you very much for coming on. And we appreciated having you on to talk about your day. And congrats on that great big fish. That's a big one, 23 3/4. So,
I saw some comments on the post about that fish, and I took over the lead on the bounty for the year. And someone made the comment, "Is like, yeah, you can let him sweat in that seat." And I was like, I'm just gonna watch. I'm gonna sit back and watch you guys fight over second, because I mean, I was the last guy to enter 23 3/4 inch fish, or 24. It was the same fish, but it was beat later on that year. But we didn't have the bounty then. But I was the last guy to catch 23 3/4 inch fish. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I'm not holding my breath.
yeah. You'd think that you probably got
good luck.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say good luck. There's been some fish caught, but in the last couple of years that were claimed to be 25, 26-inch fish, but you don't see a tape or a board anywhere in the photo. So
yeah. Well, with that, we're gonna wrap it up. We'll see you guys next week with the winners of the All-American Kayak Classic. We just got confirmation from the last guy today that we'll have first, second, and third on for that, so it'll be exciting. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.